Sianel Blaid Llwyd, noswaith Aragyd. And now, the first episode in our new series, Khemia. And here we go, episode 1 of Khemia. Already it's looking very different to Adastra. And the style of the jackals here. And this logo is great. So if you've had enough time to admire that briefly, let's get started. I lay back in the cool blackness of my mind. It's nice, a sort of half meditation that my mindfulness teacher once taught me several years ago. It helps to calm my mind, pull it inward from the outward chaos. It makes me forget the responsibilities that rest upon my shoulders. Mainly they rest upon my mentor's shoulders, but in turn, he rests upon mine. Focus. I admire the way I'm able to isolate my mind in a place such as this. For many months afterwards, setting foot within these walls sent me into a fit of gasping, as if I were drowning. Now, I imagine it to be a different place in time and space. The events are 3 years behind me. Not only that, but that point in space in which it occurred is billions of kilometres away, in a void that we shall never return to. The halls of the university are only an illusion of a consistent space. Rather, we're at a different point in the universe every moment we exist, whether that be at home, school, or on a diplomatic mission to Khemia. Therefore, I am free from that moment and that place. Now I'm in a clean space. That's exactly the kind of place I need to exist in mentally to keep this assignment. A type of assignment I've wanted my whole life. A sound mind is one of our most important assets. The past is in the past. And yet, the framing of the space is consistent as I just reasoned. The marble, the statues, the lecture halls. These were all here when it happened, and they are here now. So is it really clean? Stone doesn't live, therefore it cannot witness. But is that even true? I realise my meditation is veering off course, but it's easy to be distracted when you're laying on a bench made of marble and your head is beginning to ache. Then my concentration is broken and I sigh, rubbing my paws over the cool, polished marble. Do these marble benches and pillars witness and absorb the lives that speak and move around you? If so, then simply distancing myself from a point in space is useless. The objects most important to the event continue to exist nearby. The idea of buildings embodying a character isn't my own. My instructor in Adastra and architecture once said that long-lasting structures assume identities more distinct than the people who built them. Especially as time. We witnessed it. We saw you bleed. I opened my eyes, disturbed by what seemed to be both an inner and an audible voice. In fact, I pinpointed the statue right in front of me, the one of Antonia crouched on a pedestal. A frown, staring at it. I'd certainly heard something from that direction, like a whisper. There's no question that this university is filled with amalgamated spirits, and even in the bright morning light that pours through the windows, Antonia appears eerie to me. Of course, her most famous deed was being an asymptomatic carrivolucious fever while a prisoner of the jackals, the outbreak killing thousands. If any statue is haunted, it's likely hers. And then, as I move across the hall, she seems to follow me with her gaze. Not just her eyes, but her head as well. It's so distinct that I have to... Scipio! Oh, gods! I leap into the air, stumbling away from the sudden voice and movement. Veteris, must you shout? Am I shouting? I consider this to be a perfectly reasonable volume. I suppose my advancement in age only continues, and you must learn to live with it. I rubbed my chest, looking over the statue, that strange dark feeling slowly dissipating. did not wait for me at the entrance to the forest this morning, thus my journey was rather dull. Do you find me all that interesting? I moved toward a bench, one further away from the statue of Antonia. Well, now that you've really managed to capture the attention of the flower jackal in the past few weeks, you most certainly are. He is a most interesting. And yet you insult him in the same breath. He's a flower, what of it? He is a Khemian. Even Khemians have the boundaries of gender. That jackal seems to be just as happy to be treated as a woman as he is to be treated as a man. I sigh, feeling the chasm between our differences in age now more than ever. Beatrice was once thought of as a leading social progressive back in the days that Amicus's father ruled. Now with Amicus on the throne, much has changed, and he's rather popular with those of my age. Not so much with Veteris. As much as I enjoy conversations on topics such as the latest fashions and imported Khemian amusement tech, I was actually asked by Amicus to discuss a few things with you. I feel a falling feeling in my chest, wondering if I've done something wrong. 2 years ago, Veteris had picked his top 3 students of Khemian culture to train as his assistant and backup for the mission. I had been one of them, and just last week I was officially chosen by both Amicus and Veteris. This was despite that I was solidly middling between the other 2 students in our studies. Carbo should have been the one to go. I was certain it was a dream, and I wonder if reality is about to catch up with me. It was probably clear that my mind hasn't always been in the present. Sit, Scipio. I do as I'm told, trying to keep my expression stoic so as to avoid embarrassment no matter which way this conversation leads. Now, do you know why you were picked to accompany the mission? I try to think of a reason that won't make me sound too egotistical. My knowledge of Khemia, especially the youth culture there? Veteris waves his paw. Oh, please, Khemian youth culture, as you say, does not matter. Besides, Carbo knew more than you. I blush, even though it's a true and fair statement. Well, the only other reason might be my relationship to Neferu. And Brunis, you cultivated casual Khemian friendships with them with very little effort. Of course. I did know that having some type of relationship with the actual Khemians we had here would be important. Over the past year, I've made time to speak to them after each of our meetings, making sure to casually greet them if Amicus or Veteris walk by. I don't know them well, but I needed some type of advantage over Carbo. I tried to make it obvious that while Carbo had his nose in his books, I was talking to real Khemians in a casual and friendly way. It seems I made the correct gamble. I mean, it's not difficult, you simply... It is difficult for a wolf. Casual friendships only create opportunity for casual betrayals. However... He glances at me from under his bushy brows. It provides opportunity for the casual gathering of intelligence as well. I wince. You want me to spy? Amicus would simply like you to keep an eye on them. As we know by now, Khemian bluntness is a myth. We can never be sure of their true intentions. I did become their friend with the sole purpose of personal gain in mind. Still, the friendly feelings are genuine and spying on them doesn't feel quite right. I don't. You accepted the position of a diplomat. Thus, you accepted the responsibility to gather intelligence for your emperor. It is part of your many responsibilities now. Where do I even start? Don't ask me. I am simply an advisor to the emperor on Khemian politics and culture. He only wanted me to prepare you so it will not come as a complete surprise when you begin training. I'm quiet for a moment, knowing that I should have been expecting something like this eventually. Do you feel you're up to the task? A target like Neferu should be a lucrative one. I smile. Of course, I did accept the position like you said. However, Neferu is smarter than he'd have you believe. I doubt he'll give anything away. Oh no, that jackal's head is full of sand. Even the Emperor has publicly said so. Have you not considered they are planting him to better spy on us? That gives my mentor a pause. Then he shrugs. If they are, then there are some serious issues in the uppermost echelons of Khemia power. It is well known Neferu has been punished by being here. I mean, he hates his son so much, he sent him to live in the same planet as a general from the old war. A general that unsurprisingly kicked his balls into orbit. Ha! I sigh, feeling sorry for the jackal like I always do, and I remember that event, immortalised by drone footage, is what the jackal is most well known for. He walks in a few minutes later with Brunis, the Khemian ambassador to Adastra. They nod at me as usual, but then take their seats in the far corner of the room, apparently taking this time to discuss their own matters. The rest of the planned envoy shows up shortly after, and we begin one of our bi-weekly meetings. It feels slightly different now that my peers are gone, but aside from the room feeling a little more empty, business progresses as usual. It's a rather casual affair, if not a depressing one due to our lack of progress. That is, unless the Vizier shows up. He does so unannounced every few months or so after arriving on the stretch. Otherwise, we discuss how wolvish society and culture should approach its various Khemian counterparts. Then Amicus and Ahewawi argue for a while about how wolves must learn to separate diplomacy from outright lies, which Amicus argues is the same thing. Then we get the usually sombre news from Com about the situation on Earth. Today is no different. Amicus always goes quiet during these moments, especially now that the news is especially grim. You will recall that 3 days ago, after the deaths of 3 American diplomats who came into contact with the human, it had been discovered that he is sporadically shedding aviapox virus. Unfortunately, there have been further developments in which one of the diplomats visited an establishment that serves food and beverage. 4 British officials were infected by this diplomat and all subsequently perished in the past 2 days. The human's been placed in quarantine and talks between nations have come to a halt for the time being. The United States of America and the United Kingdom have threatened to withdraw from talks if there are further casualties. However, there appears to be no further spread of the virus at this time, likely due to its severity and its seemingly always fatal nature in humans. I don't understand many of the Earth words, but I know the news is bad. How could aviapox be so lethal to these humans? And these threats to end talks. Being part of the Galaxius makes one unused to the idea of hard borders on one's own planet. Amicus grumbles under his breath. Oh, they could be so goddamn stupid. At first I wonder if he's talking about the humans, which I find unfair. Then I wonder if he's speaking of the parents, which I find rather terrifying. Then he raises his voice. Do we know of any sapiens that can contract aviapox and remain contagious after initial infection? I'm not a virologist, but considering how little we know of the effects of the virus in humans, anything could be possible.
Yes, and due to parental negligence, he's in quarantine. Well, I'm beginning to think we need to bring him back. Like, back here, back home.
Amicus almost shouts, the first time I've heard him do so. The parents do work in the most mysterious...
By making my human appear as if he were a bioweapon? What the hell are they playing at?
Virginia had been silent through most of the discussion, clears her throat. Unfortunately, Amicus, we know the parents are not able to foresee all things. We can only control our duties on our own plane of existence. I know his relationship with the human was close, though how close is wildly different depending upon who you ask. It's clear he's more rattled than I've ever seen him, though, his paws shaking on his knees. Speaking of which, you had something to announce our envoy before the Empire as a whole, did you not?
Oh, did I?
Virginia sighs.
Oh, yes. Sorry, the parental catastrophe on Earth had me slightly distracted. Well, as you all know, our discussions with the Vizier and the Pharaoh have gone nowhere. To show Khemia that Adastra is truly dedicated to an alliance.
Amicus swallows, if he's having trouble getting the words out of his throat.
I will also be joining the envoy, despite the many hardships this will bring our world. I do believe the benefits will outweigh the cost.
Oh, so you will be joining us? I'm surprised. Even I wouldn't have given in to Father's pompous demands so easily.
We negotiated for 3 months in the Pharaoh. Anyway, during this time, Virginia will fill the role of acting empress.
I widen my eyes, if only because it's the first time I've heard such words put together. Viteris visibly blanches, while the Pharaoh and Brunis barely react at all. Thank you, Amicus. I'll perform to the best of my abilities during your absence.
You always do, Virginia. This means we should all keep in mind the fact that the departure could occur any day now, depending on when the ship arrives.
My eyes widen. So that's why I was chosen now. The day had always seemed so distant is nigh.
No, I must be off to have a discussion with the parents once again to make sure we're actually still on some sort of track.
It's dark by the time we're heading out. On the way, Amicus commands me to covertly ask if I had a discussion with Veteris, which I confirm. Then Amicus glances over at the Pharaohs leaning up against a pillar. I take the hint, and as everyone else leaves, I approach the Jackal, suddenly feeling nervous for some reason. Well, not some reason, but because now things are a bit different on my end. Well, hello there, Chosen One. Usually it's me that approaches you. I shrug as casually as possible. Well, considering my role is now certain, I thought we should acquaint ourselves further. Oh, is that so? Well, how do you think we could do that? Well, I sidestep his theatrics. Do you have any interesting plans for the night? Maybe you can help me better understand the Khemian way of things. That would be rather difficult to do on this planet, but as for plans, well, not particularly.
Hey, ready to go, Neff? Oh, hey there, Skip.
Hello. I'm at least able to not wince anymore whenever you use that children's nickname. That depends, Brunis. First, I was meaning to ask Skip if he'd like to visit a den with me. I blink. That's not exactly something you say loudly in a quiet room. That's also something he's never asked me, despite his notoriously promiscuous reputation. Is it because I'm now guaranteed? Would he have asked the same of Carbo? Imagine that bookish wolf in this situation is worthy of a laugh. Maybe Veteris and Amicus know more about this relationship of ours than I do myself. Still, it's something I've done several times before. But Nefero being a Khemian changes a lot.
Well, alright then. Have fun, you two.
The giant creature doesn't wait for my response before turning and heading out, leaving me alone with Nefero in the empty university. He's still waiting on an answer. Normally, with another wolf, male or female, I would agree. Then we'd stop at bars along the way and possibly, or possibly not, end up in a den. It was a weekly occurrence in my first few years attending this university. Yet my heart flutters like I'm 10 years younger, about to experience a den for the first time. Yes, I'd like to. Oh, wonderful. I suddenly feel a bit warm at the idea of a Khemian finding me attractive enough to bring to a den. We're similar in structure, so it makes sense, but still. The Pharaoh offers me his arm as if escorting me. There's an establishment in the Clay District we can go to. Ah, is that a place you've had problems? Well, it's more the place has a problem with me. They're not a fan of the elite. I say with some exasperation, not really feeling elite in any way. Well, that's calmed down a fair amount in the past 3 years, hasn't it? I still avoid it when I can. I'll keep you safe. He's right, there has been a long time. As far as I know, no main dwarves have been attacked recently. The jackal keeps my arm round his the entire time. I speculate it's some sort of Khemian ritual for sexual intercourse. I begin taking mental notes. I quickly forget about the other, possibly hostile pedestrians as we get closer to the dens. I'm very nervous, and that's embarrassing for someone like me well into their 20s. The entrance is the shabby side door where Nefero signs in and pays, ignoring the stairs, before we're led down a narrow hall then into our personal den. The lights are dimmed low, and Nefero fumbles with a switch while I sit on the bed. As the artificial windows glow more brightly behind Nefero, filling the room with light, I'm hit by nostalgia from a time that wasn't all that long ago. It's cramped, slightly tacky, but still pleasant. The ends were mainly frequented by students who are on their third warning for fornicating on campus. I still live on campus, and while I know Nefero lives in the Imperial District, I don't know his exact situation. I assume there's a reason he brought me here instead of his place. I assume you're familiar with this type of place? I glance at him and he smiles tussily. Sexual intercourse is forbidden on all grounds at Varro's University. The Pharaoh rolls his eyes, grabbing a bottle of wine. And here I thought wolves were sexually liberated. Well, we are. It just happens to be the leading university on the moon. The Pharaoh leans casually against the armrest, drinking straight from the bottle. I attended the best university in the Galaxius, and there were rooms dedicated to the act on campus. I bristled just slightly at the dig at my school, even if it's true that most every school on Khemia is far superior. I'm about to ask why it's brought me here instead of his own place when he suddenly sits up. Anyway, to celebrate your promotion, I thought I'd help you with your research on Khemians. Have you ever copulated with one? My throat is suddenly very dry as I shake my head. Well. The jackal sits up straighter, showing off his physique. His fur is shorter compared to mine, given the advantage of being able to show off the muscles on his chest and stomach. Finally, he slides down his loincloth-like clothing. The jackal is moving boldly, in a way that makes me wonder if he's trying to make it less strange for me. Get it all out of the way quickly and get used to it. Although I know what to expect, I'm still left staring in fascination. While very different from my own, it fits well on his frame. As he moves closer, I find myself reaching out, sliding my paws up his thighs and around to cup his rear. This is the moment that my hesitance drops, and I pull the jackal in close, kissing his groin and abdomen, making him gasp. It's a long session of sorts, though not very much happens. I find myself indulging in the wine as well, as Neferu seems to really enjoy simply touching me. First I'm a bit confused, unsure if it's some type of foreplay. Then I realise he's encouraging me to hug back, and at some point we simply end up entangled together. His arms are around me tightly, and I can smell the wine on his breath. I don't ask him, because it would be rude. I generally wonder if he's lonely. I reach back to rest a paw on his shoulder, just in case he needs reassurance, then slowly fall asleep. I wake up, and what happens in the following moments take many hours for me to put together in my mind. The door to our den is open, and I wonder why, because it should be locked. Is Neferu? He's sleeping next to me. That's when a large dark figure stands up beside our bed. There's something in his paw, and for a moment I try to yell, but nothing happens. The dark, blocky shape of his head turns in my direction, noticing me awake, and my guts turn to water. There's an almost ticklish sensation in my lower stomach that makes me think I'm urinating. He moves, and I see there's a harsh, ear-splitting crack, and before my eyes I see the man, the sapient, bend and warp in the shape of a wave before blasting apart. I'm splattered by wetness, by smells that I haven't smelled since... A light goes on, floating around us, displaying the horror. What the hell happened, Com? Neferu's moving around beside me, but I can't move. I smell this person all over me. I'm covered in him. An assassination was attempted on the lives of Neferu and Scipio. Separatist connections are suspected. Amicus has been notified. The drone's light turns to illuminate the wall, and I see everything. No! Target fully neutralized. Bodily state is incompatible with life. No! Skip? I grasp at my mane. I feel them pulling at it. Are they coming in to pull me out? What? Neferu finally focuses on me after fumbling around with the lights. I need to get out. I can't breathe. I roll off the bed, feeling the blood and viscera in my furs. I try to crawl under the bed, but find no space. Then I crawl behind the sofa, still covering my mane, avoiding the blood in the streets, avoiding the men with bricks torn from the university, avoiding looking at one of my old professors get his head smashed in with one of those bricks. I cover my eyes, waiting. Someone, Neferu, touches my shoulder. I cover my mane and tremble until I'm finally able to bring the present back to focus. One that's no better than the past. I look up and see Neferu staring at me. He's seen it. He sees what's wrong with me. How will they ever let me go along now? I know I'm not going to Khemia anymore. What follows is a patchy, blurry mess that my memory's never able to put together. It's like during my first years in university, getting far too inebriated at the bar only to wake up with a raging headache and the hope that I didn't do anything too awful the night before. A few things I'm able to remember, though I'm unsure if it's real or imagined. Wolves come into the room, and I don't know if they're from the establishment or the Empire. More drones follow. These, I know, are from the palace because only the Empire owns drones. Then I'm on a small ship. All the while I'm trembling and I can't stop despite feeling completely numb. The Pharaoh tries to speak to me every now and then, but seems to give up after I only offer one-worded answers. I thought I was done with this. It's just like the first night after it happened. Like it's never left me. I'm still broken. Then I'm being ushered out of the ship by Neferu. Khemia is talking to us, but I'm not paying attention to him. It's like my mind is crowded with too many thoughts, yet I'm not thinking of anything. At least I'm trying not to think of anything. I'm vaguely aware of the fact that Neferu had been cleaning my fur on the way here, yet the smell is still all over me. I've heard that jackals have a far weaker sense of smell, not as sensitive as that of a wolf. But now that I'm focusing on the smell, I keel over and retch violently. Ah, Tep! I'm jerked to the side, and at first I think Neferu pushed me away. I wouldn't fault him for it. But instead he's positioned me over the bushes to be sticking to them instead of on the path. Not much comes up, just the wine from earlier, and it burns worse than I remember from my younger years. It has been a while. The more festive days at school had ended after the riots. All the while Neferu was holding back my mane, just like my schoolmates might have back in those days. Amicus insists that you meet him in the palace. Oh, for God's sake, tell him we're on our way. Skip is unwell. No, don't tell him that. I'm fine. I straighten up purposefully, taking a deep breath, only to breathe in the scent of the assassin. He filters through my nostrils as fresh as when he first splattered through our room. Again I give a great retch, but I'm empty, and nothing comes up this time. Skip, what's wrong? Were you injured? Are you sick? Yes, that's it. Yes, I'm ill. I steady my feet again, then straighten up my posture, purposefully setting off in the direction of the palace while Neferu follows along, his paw on my back. I shrug him off, not wanting to appear as if I need steadying, like some female about to faint. I was feeling off earlier in the evening. I suppose it developed further. I'm feeling better now, though. I'm regaining my focus, my composure. I begin my breathing exercises, the ones that usually steady my pause and racing thoughts. Still, even as I even out my breathing, my vision continues to blacken at the edges in ebbs and flows, a constant threat that I might lose consciousness. That is the one thing I cannot do right now, not in front of the men who are in charge of this mission. Too much depends on this. Somehow, over the course of 20 paces, I'm able to retrain my mind, recompose my outward demeanour. I've worked my way up to this position for far too long. I won't fall and let that height be used against me. Come on, Amicus is waiting. I don't look at him, but I can tell Neferu is staring at me as he follows along at my side. I can tell he wants to ask further. Of course he does, but thank the gods, he keeps silent as he turns to walk through the archway and into the palace. I've only been inside the palace twice. The first had been with the 2 other assistants in training, in which Amicus interviewed the 3 of us before sending us back to the university. The last time was last week, alone, when I'd been chosen. I need to display the same confidence that I'd felt back then, to wipe the last hour from my mind. My confident stride comes over a bit short, though, when I see Amicus standing right there in the main hallway. His presence is always intimidating. He is the Emperor, after all. But right now he looks especially intimidating. He's angry. What in the hell were you thinking? More than angry, he's furious. He's not looking at me. In fact, if I'm not even present, his gaze reserved only for the jackal beside me. This is good. The Pharaoh's smug nature returns. I have to admit that it impresses me a little bit. Even if he is the Pharaoh's son, he's still a lone jackal within the palace of a furious wolven emperor. No, Neferu, I'm not playing your stupid games tonight. This is... The Emperor seems to remember himself and takes a deep breath, though the smouldering fury continues to burn in his eyes. You realise how serious this is? What could have happened? I realise this, yes. I was there. And what the fuck were you doing in the Clay District? I jump, never having heard Amicus shout like that, or curse in such a manner for that matter. Brazenly showing your face, no appointments, no protection. Oh, they offer protection there. The Pharaoh's joke falls terribly flat, and Amicus lets it hang there in the air, as if to emphasise the stupidity of it.
You know, I almost felt guilty assigning the drone to covertly tail you. What have you been killed? I thought you were at least somewhat sensible,
Amicus's muzzle hangs open for a moment, as if trying to search for words appropriate enough to describe his disbelief and anger. Even through my numb senses, I'm able to feel some shame and embarrassment, not only for myself, but for the Pharaoh as well. What had we been thinking? We knew the separatist movements had been gaining a bit more momentum recently, become more radical. We discussed the possibility of things becoming more dangerous. While it might not matter in the grand scheme of this mission, losing the Pharaoh would... well, it would end the mission. Might even start a war. That's what they want. I suppose I just assumed the Pharaoh knew the risks, knew what he was doing, but I hadn't even bothered to ask. I look at him and see that he has his ears back, eyes downcast. Amicus's anger seems to lose its edge, his demeanour shrinking a bit as he waits for the Pharaoh to respond. When the jackal offers nothing, Amicus spreads his paws in a gesture of bewilderment.
I mean, you're not some frolicking first-year student needing a private room for fornication, are you? I set you up with the best apartment in the Imperial District.
It's a long walk and I was tired, Amicus.
What? You...
Again, the Emperor is at a loss for words. An assessment of the current situation indicates that I have information that may be of use to you, Amicus.
What, are you talking about the assassin?
About Neferu's living accommodations. Oh, shut up, Com.
What?
The magistrate of the Imperial District ordered for the apartment to be renovated unless they evicted Neferu.
What? I was not notified of this.
According to Adastra Code 3304 under Housing, Magistrate Anthony was fully within his rights to do so without notifying you, Amicus.
Then where the hell have you been living, Neferu?
The jackal opens his mouth, but is interrupted by Com once again. He's been renting for various temporary living spaces, mainly within the Silk and Clay districts. I've logged the addresses of each location if you'd like to.
Oh, shut the hell up for once, Com. The point has been made. If all you do is spy, then you should learn to read a room.
Read a room does not compute, Neferu.
Oh, we know, Com.
Neferu, why did you not tell me of this?
Amicus looks less angry now, more confused. Neferu sighs.
You are the Emperor of Adastra. You have bigger things to worry about than me getting kicked out of apartments because of Wolf and spite.
Not if it endangers your life. If the Pharaoh or even the Vizier knew of your slinking around the worst districts of Adastra, our entire efforts of the past 4 years could be ended within seconds.
Why are you so sure of that? You seem to think they care about me.
Well, I said none of your games tonight. I know your relationship with your father is a poor one, but frankly that matters little to me. What does matter is the optics. Imagine the son of the Khemian Pharaoh being murdered on the poorest streets of Adastra. Imagine it! Well, like it or not, you are my responsibility while you are here, as you are a diplomatic guest. So my inability to, at the very least, keep you alive will demand an answer from Khemia and set back all of our work by years, if not generations.
That finally seems to get through to the jackal, and he does not respond this time. A very uncomfortable silence follows. Then the jackal bows with a quick duck of his head.
You all right, Amicus? I suppose I've been too comfortable on this moon. I apologise for my negligence.
The Pharaoh then turns to me.
And I apologise to you, Scipio. I had no intention of endangering your mission, but more importantly, your life. Forgive me.
He catches me a bit off guard, but I manage to keep my composure. You have my forgiveness, Neferu. Then, realising Amicus's eyes are now on me, I quickly turn to him. I am adjusting and learning about this new position I am in. Still, I should have known such actions were reckless. I am sorry, my Emperor. I kneel before Amicus, holding my breath. This would be the moment to prepare myself for a dismissal from both the palace and my position. The Pharaoh's paw comes to rest on my shoulder in a somewhat sympathetic way. Amicus rubs his face with the paw tiredly, sighing loudly.
I'll be thankful that Virginia is not aware of this.
Amicus, you should know the report on the incident has been filed for Virginia upon her awakening.
Delete that, Com.
Deleting report on the assassination attempt upon the lives of Neferu and Scipio for Virginia.
Gods. I have such a mess to clean up now. Who else knows what happened?
The owner of the establishment and possibly a few housekeepers.
Come, guard the entrance to the den. Ensure that no one leaves the premises until I arrive.
Amicus walks past us. I can hear the deep rumble in his throat as a stifled growl before he calls over his shoulder.
Nefero, you are to take up residence in the palace once more. I'll have your belongings moved to you from wherever the hell you're staying now.
Oh, wonderful.
In fact, come. Alert for Terrace and Brunis, they will both be moving residence behind palace walls first thing in the morning. We cannot afford mistakes at this point.
Yes, Amicus. And where shall I bed for the night, Amicus?
Amicus is almost past the archway. Well, same room as last time. It should be as you left it.
Oh, really? I thought that room was for the Emperor.
But Amicus disappears around the corner, a small parade of drones following him.
The Pharaoh goes quiet, staring at the archway where the wolf last was. Then he rubs the back of his neck, looking back at me. Does this mean I take the sofa? I gesture at one of them. I'm only partly joking. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to stay. If you like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone use them. I believe, however, that Amicus was implying that we share the room.
What made you believe that?
There are 2 beds in that room, if it really is the same as I left it.
I see.
I think about my small room on campus, the one I had been moved to after achieving my new assignment, the place I desperately wish to be right now. Being in the faculty dorms, I don't have to mingle with the students. Not that I would have to anyway, considering they're all off this summer. But while I'd like to be alone, I'm not so sure if there's security robust enough to deal with assassination attempts, and I don't know if Amicus has a drone tailing me as well. Probably not. So, do you wish to speak about what happened, or... In all honesty, I wish to have a genuine bath. I'm becoming aware of the smell again, as I'm no longer distracted by the Emperor. I'll take that as a no. Follow me. I frown bits as I follow the jackal, reminding myself of Khemian bluntness and my need to adjust to it, or even adapt it for my own use. We walk in silence through the marble halls, and soon cross into sections I'm not familiar with. The last time I visited the palace, I'd been a bit too preoccupied to really take in my surroundings. Now I'm able to see it's more simple than I would have imagined, almost utilitarian in its design. One would imagine halls lined with gold and encrusted with gems, if they only listened to rumours spread by the lower classes. We come to a stop at what appears to be a door without a handle, and the Pharaoh automatically raises a paw to a black square, which sends the door sliding open at a startling speed. That is a bit fanciful, I have to admit. What's even more fanciful is a bath the same size as the public one at the university, maybe even bigger. The university's bath is almost always filled with dozens of men. This one is completely empty. Instead of the sulphuric smell I'm used to, I'm instead hit with a warm, steamy wall of floral scents. Help yourself. Drones will clean up after you. I step in hesitantly, then notice Neferu hanging back. Don't you need to wash as well? There's a personal bath in the room. Besides that, I feel you need a more... The Pharaoh makes a vague, waving motions with his paws. Wide open space to ease your mind. What you experienced was a terrible thing, and I know it has affected you. I bristle. For that moment, yes, but I've had time to collect myself. Well, collect yourself further. When you finish, ask for directions to where I am. Con will direct you. The Pharaoh steps out, leaving me frowning once again at the way he seems to sprint circles around me with his blunt words. I begin undressing, deciding to be faster with my own tongue when I speak to him. The Pharaoh thinks himself to be more clever than he really is, but it's not difficult to speak fast while being rude. Not for me, anyway. I simply yield to higher authority, and being a mentee student, well, that means I yield to most everyone here. The Pharaoh, however, insists we speak as equals. If most of my assignment involves needing to learn more about him, then I must do that. I suck air through my teeth as I slip into the water, a bit surprised at how much hotter it is than an university bath. I usually lower myself slowly, but it's painful enough that as my groin leaves the steaming water, I just drop in all at once. Ah! I groan in equal parts pain and pleasure for dunking my head into the scented water. I come back up tasting the salty minerals, leaving me to wonder how they've kept the smell so pleasant. Maybe it's completely artificial. I don't mind either way. I'm already feeling better, shivering down my spine a few times as I imagine the remnants of the night wash off down my body. I submerge myself a few more times before finally settling back, sighing deeply. I'm finally able to relax, And though the hot water is partially the culprit, it's mainly due to the fact I haven't been dismissed yet. Amicus would have done it in the main hall if he felt that what I did was too egregious. And for the moment, the Pharaoh hasn't shown any indication that he intends to tell anyone else about what he saw me do. Though I've just been reluctant to share my experience with the jackal, now I think it'd be wise to open up to him a bit. He'd seen my reaction and questioned it. Best to achieve some understanding just in case he goes elsewhere for answers. During the psychological portion of the vetting process of my position, I'd almost panicked many times. And I'd be able to do it again in my current state.
Maybe aren't meant to be the one to go?
It'll be difficult, confessing my mental weakness to someone who's my mindfulness teacher or my mother. My eyes fly open as I realise I've forgotten to send my daily message to her. Damn it, a com?
Yes, Scipio?
Do you have a portal here that I can use?
I'm sorry, but I cannot allow you to use technology reserved for the Imperial family.
I sigh, wondering if I have to ask Nefario to borrow his.
However, your personal portal is due to arrive within a minute, along with the rest of your belongings. Would you like me to send it to you in the baths?
Yes please. I'm not sure how to feel about my personal things being gathered and floated me without me being involved. I don't dwell on it, standing to soap and then rinse my fur, careful to really get the spots that are at one point crusted up. I dry in a hurry, and as I'm dressing, a tiny drone floats down from an opening in the ceiling, balancing a silver rod about the length of my forearm on its back. I plug my portal from the floating machine in a delicate manner, now very conscious of what they're capable of. Thank you, I mumble quietly. It immediately floats away back to its sealing hatch. I quickly tap it to extend the transparent glowing panel from the rod. I feel my heart leap in my chest and see that I have a message waiting for me from Mother. I'd hoped that maybe she hadn't been up yet, even though Lux is several hours ahead of Adastra and she's an early riser. I open it and see the small message.
Skip, I hope you're well. If you fall asleep early, I imagine they must be working you quite hard. Please respond when you can. All my love, Mother.
It was sent around the time I'd been asleep, before it happened. What if I hadn't survived and never sent her a final message because of my forgetfulness? I start to type a message back, a quick one, then I notice the icon in the corner. Visual communication is what truly makes this device a portal. Only use it once weekly, but that day is 2 days away, because I miss sending my message on time because I miss Mother. I push the icon resembling an arrowhead, as it points in the direction of where my mother is, thousands of miles away. She answers within seconds, and first all I see is white fabric, then a bracelet, then my mother's face.
Skip, are you alright? You fell asleep, didn't you?
She doesn't sound too worried or upset, but her chiding voice makes it difficult to speak for some reason.
Scipio, you are alright, aren't you? Have you just had a bath? Your mane is sticking up.
The fortress inside my mind that I thought I'd rebuilt comes crumbling down. I open my mouth, and all that comes out is a sob as the tears well over. When I get back to Neferu's room, I find him already asleep on the bed. It's certainly much more exotic than the rest of the palace, but being the Emperor's room, that makes sense. I see a few crates stacked in one corner of the room, which I presume to be our belongings. I'm too tired to look into them now, however, and find myself slumbering into the smaller bed. Even if it is smaller, it's quite a bit more comfortable than any bed I've slept in. Within less than a minute, the gurgling fountain behind me lulls me into a deep sleep. I sit on the edge of the pond, letting my feet cool in the water. I was only a little confused when I woke up in the palace. I very quickly remember what happened the night before. It's somewhat easier to think back on now. Still, there's an odd dreamy quality to what I see, almost like a filter exists between me and the world. It's a familiar, numbing feeling, and I sit here in front of the fountain, feeling as if I'm staring through a fog I cannot see. This happened last time too, though it's not nearly as bad. Shortly after the riots, I was seeing everything as if it were a film. A terrible, depressing film, at least it didn't feel real. A defense mechanism, my mindfulness teacher had called it. I left Neferu still sleeping in the bedroom, hopefully he might seek me out, and extremely relieved when he does. Neferu coming to look for me tells me he is at least still interested in me, which I remind myself is something I need to keep up. He stumbles out, looking a bit more unkempt than usual, squinting in the bright light. Getting fresh air? I just need... I wave my paws around, mimicking him from last night. Space. If space is what you like, I think you'll really enjoy the deserts of Khemia. You know, I come from a region of Adastra that is a desert. Yes, nowhere on Adastra is like the deserts of Khemia. Yeah, lots of dunes, right? Among other things, but yes, many of those. I think back to my primary schooling. I go to the library and obsessively examine the educational murals of Khemia, the sprawling dunes below and the bright moon above. Meanwhile, jackals danced in the moonlight. That was probably the beginning of my obsession with Khemia, and the fairy reminded me that I might be able to go. It penetrates through my numbed fog and I feel some excitement, but also apprehension because I know I need to talk to Neferu about last night if I'm ever going to rest easy. I'm sure on my face. What's wrong? Can I speak to you for a moment about something I'd like to keep private between us? The fairy walks closer to the edge of the pond. Well, it depends on what that something is. Promising to keep a secret for knowing it is... Ahotep! I jump too, bringing my paws to my chest and ducking my head. What? I look back at the jackal as he stumbles back, staring with wide eyes at the ground beside me. I look down, finding nothing but stone and a garden spider. I look back up at him, my heart hammering to bits in my chest, trying to fight off that rising panic. What is it, Neferu? If he's playing games with me, my current state, I don't think I'd be able to forgive him. But now he's shuddering, looking angry. Oh, gods, damn your 8 eyes! It's every time in this awful garden! I look at the spider, motionless, legs fanned out to touch either side of the pond's stone border. Are you speaking to a spider, Neferu? And how the hell do you sit next to it? Oh, it's disgusting. I sit there confused, completely thrown off by this sudden violent reaction from Neferu. What's wrong with it? Everything. I start to smile a little. Are you afraid of it, Neferu? You know their venom is hardly... I know. Many of you wolves remind me of this. It doesn't change the fact that it is an abomination. I look back down the creature, frowning before poking one of my claws at the very back of its abdomen. Like lightning, it skitters away up the border and toward a pillar. They're the most natural and effective form of pest control. You know, back when I was a pup, I would catch them to keep as pets. The fairy watches the spider warily for approaching the edge of the pond, looking about carefully before finally sitting next to me. Cultural differences, I suppose. I think back to my studies of Khemian wildlife, of the many dangerous and extremely venomous creatures that prowl through the sands. The spider's dangerous on Khemia. I know other arachnids can pose a threat. Scorpions, I think they're called. The creatures with the incredible stinging tails. The pharaoh dips his feet in the water with a sigh. Incredibly painful stinging tails. Even on this planet I shake up my clothing and bedding. It became a habit after an incident with one of my loincloths during my youth. I'll only say that I prefer to be kicked in the groin by a Pugnu champion. Then your fear of arachnids is completely reasonable. Amicus would say otherwise. I'm glad to know a wolf that's more understanding. Now, you wanted to confide in me about something? Our light-hearted conversation becomes heavy once more, and I sigh, wondering the best approach. A quick one, I think. Neferu, I've come to enjoy your company over the past year, and especially the past week. I feel that we are becoming true friends. Wolven friends. I know we're already friends by Khemian standards. What can I say? You make great conversation. Well, thank you. I do feel that because of that I should tell you some things about myself that could be important. So, I want to explain what happened last night. I see. I will let you speak without interruptions then. Well, there's not much to say. Simply I had a terrible experience 3 years ago. During Cato's riot, some wolves decided to target the university. They stormed our dormitories and attacked students and faculty. I was caught and humiliated in various ways, then beaten. I look at Neferu's reflection, but he's only looking at me with a stoic face. What I experienced was mild compared to others. I witnessed many terrible things. This all left an impression on my mind, a sort of... I furrow my brows, trying to think of the right words to describe it. Like an ache, but in my mind, one that I've mostly been able to overcome. But the events at the den, It irritated that ache a bit. The reaction you saw from me, that was why. Being awoken suddenly, then witnessing what happened, it left me unprepared. But I am prepared now, and I doubt the ache will return. I just wanted to explain it to you as a friend, though it is something I only tell friends, so I hope you can keep it between us. I wait for a moment, already somewhat happy with my tactics in explaining this to them. But he stays quiet. Anxiety ripples up in a place below my diaphragm. I look up at Nefero, though he's no longer looking at me. I hope I was able to make sense. My mind is not broken. I understand what is real. It's more like a glitch that can be easily patched. More silence. My heart sinks. Damn it. I should have known. Why was I so hopeful initially? The Pharaoh is a Khemian. He knows when something is inefficient and won't hesitate to replace it. That's what I am. I was being selfish, trying to stay on the mission. I suppose you're upset with me? I mumbled dejectedly, feeling myself wanting to cry. I keep myself from doing so, partly by biting my cheeks and keeping the corners of my mouth from tilting downward, something I've done since my earliest memories. It seems to help, for whatever reason. The Pharaoh finally looks at me. Scipio. Yes? I keep my voice light and attentive. I am upset, but not with you. I am frustrated with many things. I suppose I'm upset with Adastra as a whole. The Jackal's voice is heavy and distant. Adastra? I know that you know this, but the catalyst of those riots involved me to an extent. Of course I do. I'm still surprised he's talking about this. No one talks about it, not in the 2 years I've been involved in the mission, so I assumed it would never be discussed. I clear my throat. I do know, yes. When I was kneeling in the amphitheatre, certain my life was about to end, I was at peace. In fact, you might even say that I was willing to die, especially at that time. The Pharaoh trails his paw through the water again. But then, I was saved by a friend. Shortly afterwards, I witnessed his neck being slashed instead. At the moment he was leaning against me, I saw his neck in detail. I then got to witness his final moments with his lover. I continue to listen, keeping my expression attentive, though I know the full story and confused as to why he's bringing it up. The human sacrifice saved Amicus's rule in the Pharaoh's life. I would have thought it was an intensely joyous moment for the Jackal. He is very brave. The Pharaoh is quiet for a moment, still playing with the water. Yes, though he denied and tell you he simply never knows what he's doing and only goes with the flow, or something along those lines. I frown a bit, even more confused. Anyway, I tell you this because that experience changed something within me. I don't believe that I ever feared death until that very moment, when I was right next to it. For the first time, I watched a sapient, a friend, transition from existence to nothing. Nothing but an empty, damaged vessel cradled in his lover's arms. Now I think I understand. Memory surfaces of that bright blue sky day, of Professor Urbicus laying on his back in the street next to me as I played dead. I watched his fitful death throes, his last sporadic movements as his damaged brain struggled to continue its existence. And then it failed. My mind begins clouding slightly, and the Pharaoh notices. Sorry, you all right? I clear my mind. Yes. I should be more delicate, but my point is exactly this. We share a terrible moment 3 years ago, one that still deeply affects us to this day. He pauses. Excuse my Khemian ways, but... The Pharaoh's arm is suddenly around my shoulders, pulling me towards him until my muzzle is right next to his and he rests his head against mine. I freeze up slightly, definitely unused to contact such as this. Ahewawi. I hear Neferu's voice unfiltered by my lingua for the first time, and of course he speaks perfect, beautiful Khemian. That is our word for it. All pain. I know that wolves do not, which makes this all the more frustrating. Here, you are expected to face inner turmoil alone. This upsets me. I relax a bit, then lean into Neferu more, partially because I'm happy to be part of anything Khemia, but also because this is actually comforting. I understand what Neferu was telling me now. I never expected this, the son of the Pharaoh, to struggle with ache like I do. So understand that you don't have to hide your struggles from me. I would rather help you manage them. That is a comforting thought, knowing I can confide in someone rather than just my mother, but I worry that I'll be dismissed from the mission if it becomes obvious to the others. Certainly I've just laid bare my deepest fears to this jackal I've met in person a total of maybe a few dozen times. I realise I must be Adastra's worst spy, and the always suspicious part of my mind wonders if I'm being purposely manipulated. This feeling of comfort is so rare and welcome that I don't care for the moment. I've always admired Khemia culture, but the first time I feel as if I'm being included in it, and it's wonderful. I know, and I would have considered if the mission involved a dangerous situation. The Pharaoh finally lets go, leaning back on his paws. On the contrary, I believe going to Khemia might help you, especially if you're only there to record and experience, as you said. Well, thank you, Neferu, for giving me a Khemia experience. It's refreshing to say what I'm thinking. Liberating, is it not? Keep practicing, you'll fit right in once we arrive in Khemia.
Why don't you practice on me? Well, I'd like some blunt answers right about now.
Brunus's deep rumbling voice startles me out of my hazy relief and happiness. We both turn to see the big wolverine standing about 10 paces behind us. How a creature so large managed to sneak up on us is beyond me. A morning, Brunus. Decided to join the Palace Club.
Well, I was escorted by a bunch of drones, so I didn't exactly have a choice in the matter.
Someone's testy.
Someone's about to explain to me what the hell they did last night.
He notices my ears fall back for a moment.
Not you, Skip. I already know that whatever happened is his fault.
The Pharaoh smirks in response. If you want details, you'll have to accept my invitations one of these days.
Don't take it the wrong way, but I'm really damn curious to why there isn't more footage of people kicking you in the balls, Neferu.
That seems to quickly sour Neferu's mood. Because, Brunus, video recording devices are a luxury on Adastra. Brunus seems to ignore the jackal, instead looking at me.
Well, I still don't think this is your fault, but maybe you can tell me what happens when we're not all wasting our breath.
The Pharaoh steps in then. Someone attempted to attack us, likely someone from the separatist groups. It's under investigation. The immediate situation was taken care of, but Amicus has taken extra precautions to keep us all safe until we depart for Khemia.
Attack? What, like some political attack crap or some serious attack crap?
Serious, but I will tell you the details later. For now, just enjoy the rare opportunity of being able to reside in the Grand Adastra Imperial Palace.
Well, as long as the two of you are okay. Honestly, this place gives me the creeps after what happened to you. That and the fact that they've only got drones around. I'm especially on edge because all my stuff got spirited away on a bunch of drones, so who the hell knows where my medicine went with it.
The big wolverine takes out his odd little pipe, the one that gave him the herbal smell I recognised him by, though no smoke came out of it. I clear my throat. Com? There's a momentary pause, during which both Neferu and Brunus look at me. I wonder if I've made a fool of myself trying to communicate with the AI while outside. Then, thankfully, yes, Scipio? Can you locate Brunus's belongings? You are flying them in by drone. They have been dropped on the roof.
What?
Other information to note. Brunus's luggage contained an illegal preparation of the Khemian plant Ahewawi to be vaporized in a pipe contraption.
What?
It was promptly destroyed, and a report was filed to Amicus suggesting a 100-year prison sentence for Brunus.
What?
The Pharaoh talks over the angry growls coming from the wolverine. Why was it dropped on the roof, Com? To follow cargo loading protocol, all Khemian Alliance mission members have had their personal belongings moved to the roof. Cargo loading?
We're not leaving you until I get my damn pap. I'd rather rip off my other arm than have to go through the stretch without my medicine.
Just a moment, does that mean the ship has arrived? Well, I suppose it couldn't be anything else unless we're going somewhere I wasn't aware of. It's here! What I believe to be Vatera screeching across the gardens reaches our ears. We all look around in confusion and then...
Holy shit, where did you...
The ship has entered the atmosphere. Viteris's manic demeanour seemed to disturb my two friends, which is understandable if you've never seen him in such a state. It even frightens me occasionally, though I feel this amount of excitement is justified if the ship we've all been waiting for the past 3 years is actually arriving.
How far away is the ship, Com?
Arrival in approximately 2 minutes and 32 seconds.
Scipio.
I'm a bit distracted, trying to think if I've done everything I need here on Adastra for I leave for at least a year. I know I have, I always feel I missed something. Viteris is adamant on getting my attention though, leaving in front of me.
Scipio, my boy.
His voice has transitioned to a hoarse whisper.
Remember this moment, cherish this moment.
Then he yanks me down to a kneeling position before grabbing my head rather roughly and tilting it toward the sky.
Behold your first view of Khemian tech. Let it inspire you, Scipio. This is what Adastra can be.
To be continued. And there we go. Let me save that here. And that was part 1. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's nice to see Adastra. It's lovely to voice Amicus again. I really miss not doing anything for him for the past few months. Apart from Earth Vision, if you were watching that, you'll remember what happened. But yeah, there we go. That was a lot of fun. And since we don't have the credits on this one, Ahewawi is the writer and creator of Khemia. Sprite art is by Haps. All the backgrounds are by Strange. I don't know how to pronounce your name. If you happen to be watching this, please let me know so I get it right next time. Additional art, including this amazing logo, is by Cardamon. And Mo is responsible for the music, and you can actually get the music yourself. I'll put a link in the description so you can buy the music and listen to it, 'cause it's specially composed. And do you remember way back when, at the university, when T-Bo was there, he saw a statue looking at him? I'm pretty sure that's the one that was bothering Scipio at the start. Why am I not surprised that the other would be attracted to a statue like that? Relevant? Or is it just something Ahewawi put in so it's a nice link and weird people like me notice it? I don't know. But keep that in mind, you never know what might happen. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and if you're watching this in the premiere, thanks for chatting. Until next time, which I don't know what video it is going to be because it might be something brand new. Depends on someone else. But until then, bye for now.